Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Debt Over It. We are here with Mara, and Mara reached out to me recently through email. She's always in my comments, which I really appreciate. And I've always known that she is a videographer, specifically a wedding videographer. And she reached out recently about some ideas for me to create content around like just business stuff and being self-employed, wedding stuff specifically. And that's what we're here to talk about. So we're going to have two episodes together. Actually, this one is going to be more business focused, self-employed focused. And for anybody who's maybe interested in becoming a videographer, photographer, or some sort of freelance. So I'll ask her a bunch of questions, and then next time we'll talk about weddings. So thank you, Mara, for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. I am nervous, but we're gonna get through it.
Yes, no, it'll be fun. I have just a bunch of questions that I'm going to be asking Mara about her journey into becoming a full-time wedding videographer, which I think is unique. I don't think I've ever met anybody who's a full-time videographer. So,
It's definitely a tricky industry to get into. A lot of people just don't realize how much time and money goes into it to get
mhm.
started. Because like you have to have the professional gear and you have to get good at editing and it takes a lot of time
Yeah.
to really get there, but it's for better or for worse, it's what I love
Mhm.
to do. So,
Yeah. And speaking of getting into it, how did you, like, what made you want to be a videographer?
whenever I was younger, I was very shy, very quiet. Didn't really like getting my photo taken, but whenever I was in seventh grade, my English teacher, he, we had like a couple extra days in the class that were like buffer days basically, towards the end of the year. And he was like, let's do something fun. And we made a music video, like of everybody lip syncing to The Grenade by Bruno Mars, like
Uh,
had just come out. So it was that song. And it was so cheesy, but it was so fun. And we almost made like a little script that everybody was kind of following. And it was a lot of fun in the sense that like I liked watching the other people kind of like perform almost, but I was too nervous to be on the camera at all. So I was like, "Can I help you behind the camera?" And my teacher was like, "Yeah, sure, that's fine." And since then, I just kind of was fascinated by video and everything. And he edited that music video, and it was so funny. Everybody loved it. Um, and so whenever I was in eighth grade, then I was like, I'm gonna try it. And I had a study hall class that year. So during study hall, like 2 or 3 days, me and a bunch of friends just were in the hallway and doing a music video to Call Me Maybe by Curly Rae Jepsen.
mhm.
And like it was just so much fun and I got to be really creative with it. And I look back now and I'm like, oh, that's awful. Like, let me do that. But like in the moment, it was like everybody loved it, everyone loved watching it. Um, kind of became known as like the girl with the camera. And I would do photography as well,
Mhm.
but there was just something different about video that I liked more. And it kind of just grew as a hobby for a while. Whenever I was going to college, I I grew up in a very small town, so it was like you're not gonna get a job with like a film degree or something like that. So I looked at other options that like maybe I could still do something with video, but not not really what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
So I went into marketing and I like while I was in college, I took a couple of like video editing classes and it was funny. My one professor like pulled me aside one day after class and he was like, honestly, because I was a senior at the time, and he was like, if you weren't a senior, I'd tell you to switch majors because you're better than like the people who are majoring in this class. I was like, oh,
Wow.
okay. Stuff just comes very naturally to me. It's like I get a vision in my head and then I just like hyper fixate on it until I can do it. Throughout then college, I was still doing some videos, like just little projects on the side. And my cousin was getting married and she like knew I was in the video. So she asked me if I would video her wedding. And that was kind of the beginning of everything because I just kind of like started researching on YouTube and um blogs were really big at that time. So I was just
Mhm.
like consuming everything I could about wedding video because it was still pretty new, but it had been around long enough at that point that people were like teaching others how to do it kind of. So went into it kind of blind, but felt pretty good about it. Learned a lot and since then, I've just been getting better gear and putting more time into like learning different editing techniques and really figuring out like my style. And then like other friends would ask me a little bit later in college to do their wedding videos, and I just kind of grew from there. I started advertising myself. And then I actually moved closer to Pittsburgh because the wedding industry is a lot bigger in a bigger city, obviously. And I feel like once I moved here, kind of met people who were similar to me and really was able to like be creative with the editing and like just had more creative control over it. It really blossomed into what I do now. And
Mhm.
I'm just always trying to get better.
How old are you?
I'm 27.
27. So well over, you started, you said about seventh, eighth grade. How
Mhm.
has the tech changed since then? Like what cameras do you remember back then that you were using?
So I actually have it in my
Oh,
closet
really?
somewhere. It
Cool.
was my mom's little Sony Handycam camcorder, probably 720p,
Hmm.
like just really crappy quality compared to now.
That's actually not bad though, because I
Yeah,
feel
but
when I first started on YouTube, when I had that camera that I was filming on, I think it was just the 360p. Like I still have videos up on my lifestyle channel with that
uh-huh.
quality, and it's like, how did anybody even watch this? It is so bad.
Yeah.
So that's so
But
funny.
yeah, so my mom would like record like dance recitals for us and
Yeah.
like stuff like that. But like she didn't use it all the time. So I was like, I'm just gonna borrow this and then I just never gave it back.
Mhm.
So I started with that. My first wedding, I think I like borrowed a camera from somebody. I used my iPhone to record the audio.
Wow.
I forgot a tripod, so I had my cousin's dad, so like the bride's dad, stop on his way to the venue and buy me a tripod from Walmart.
Wow.
My cousin wasn't paying me, so he was like, just it's fine, just consider
Yeah.
it payment. I'm like, okay, cool. I had asked for a drone for Christmas the year before because I knew I was gonna do this, and it was like a very cheap off-brand drone and a cheap off-brand little action camera, and I got like a 3 second clip that was usable from it.
Uh-huh.
I look at it now and I'm like, man, I had like no fears going into that because like I could not imagine going into a wedding without. I think now I calculated it maybe a year ago, like $25,000 worth of gear that I take to every
Wow.
wedding.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a lot,
You have like a
a lot different.
checklist at this point where it's like
Yeah.
you have to bring this, otherwise you're screwed, basically.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And what were you doing once you got out of college? You were doing this on the side. So what were you doing full time for work?
So I graduated in 2020, in May, so terrible time to enter the job market.
Mhm.
I had moved back home with my parents and was just kind of applying for jobs. At that point, I had booked 3 weddings for that year. A lot of people, like people who were full-time at that point, they pretty much had all of their weddings like postponed to the following year. So it was like they had no money that year. But then the next year they had like double the weddings that they had to work. It was crazy. The 3 weddings that I had, they just kind of like downsized or were later in the year and were able to have it still once the restrictions of COVID were lifted and everything. A lot of it, I was actually working a volunteer position with an animal shelter. It was remote and I was doing like email marketing and that kind of stuff. And the owner of that shelter then offered me a paid position part-time with that shelter and then also with her like other business. And it it was good at first, but it quickly became like I'm working a lot more than what I'm supposed to be just to get stuff done because I didn't really get like training or anything. It was just kind of like a here's work for you to do. Now go do it. And I remember at one point she like asked a different videographer because at that point she was living in like Las Vegas. Like
Mhm.
she wasn't local to me anymore. So she had asked another videographer like how long it would take them to edit some like social media clip that she was having me do. And that person said like one thing and I was taking longer. And she was like, it just shouldn't be taking you that long. I'm like, well, I'm not a professional like that person yet. Like,
Mhm.
like I'm just out of college. I didn't go to college for this. So eventually I was like, okay, I need another job because this one's part-time, like 20 hours a week max. I can't live off that. And I got another job with another shelter and was doing marketing with them. And I was actually back in the town that I went to college. So I ended up moving back to my college town to work that second job. So two, that job was probably 30 hours a week. So right there, that was 50 plus my weddings. And my second job that I moved for was only paying me $11 an hour. And I had to have a marketing degree. And it's like, I get it, it's an animal shelter, but it there was a lot of toxic drama there.
Mhm.
Um, Eventually I got to a point where I had to pick one of the two jobs, and I was like tired of being almost belittled at the first job that I had. So I left that one. And in my head, I was like, well, this one's 30 hours a week. Even though I'm making like twice as much money with the other job, I was like, I'd rather do the other one. So I did that for a couple of months and it just got really bad, like really quickly. So at that point, it's probably October of 2020. And I was doing social media marketing, email marketing, was answering like social media messages all the time. I was taking photos of all the animals. I was writing like the biography of all the animals. And then I was also doing all of the fundraising. And we were obviously not allowed to have all of our like in-person like big fundraiser events that they used to have. So they were kind of like, you have to raise our money, but figure out how to do it virtually.
Yeah.
And I did it. I started $5 Fridays where we would like ask people on Facebook, like, please donate $5 on Fridays so
Yeah.
that we can like keep doors open. And I would kind of like play it up, have different themes, like, and I would get a couple $100 on like each of those days. So I was like, okay, like that feels good. Again, didn't have much training with anything there and was just kind of like thrown to the wolves. the like manager in charge of all of the workers at the shelter, she just had something against me. The lady that hired me and her got into a big fight. And the lady that hired me actually left. So then I think it was like through that I kind of like then took the brunt of whatever was going on with other people.
Mhm.
Um, but it was a very toxic place, and I the reason I ended up quitting there is because I had asked for a raise because it was $11 an hour. I was doing weddings on the side, but I was not charging much at all, and
Yeah.
I didn't have many because of COVID and just being new to the industry. I was losing money on my business at that point, and I was also like I qualified for food stamps. So like I was getting food stamps at that point. And I was like, I need more money. Like
Yeah.
I can't survive with a college degree on $11 an hour.
Hmm.
And so I went in and I asked one day, and like I'm not confrontational. I don't like doing anything like that. So I was like very anxious going into it. And I was basically told, like, no, we don't have the money. And I was like, okay, I get that. I tried. And then maybe a week or two later, we have a all staff meeting one day before we opened. And she makes an announcement that almost everybody else would be getting a raise of like a dollar or two. And like a lot of them were making less than me still. So like they definitely deserved a raise. But I was like, this feels so targeted because I just asked for a raise and you said you didn't have the money, but now you're gonna turn around and give 30 other people a raise,
Yeah.
but not me. And I was just like, okay, that's my cue to find something else. So
Hmm.
I left that and started working at a Best Buy. And I was like, this will be good. I can work with like the camera section and sell stuff to people that I know about. And I've always been into technology. So I just really enjoyed kind of being around all of it, learning about it. But it's a retail sales job, so there's definitely days that it's just like not worth it.
Yeah.
And even there, I was making $15 an hour there, so it's like I was getting a raise and like I wasn't I didn't need my degree for it.
Hmm.
So, oh, I also found out later that the lady before me who was doing all of the marketing was making $14 an hour without a
Wow.
degree.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, that's upsetting.
Yeah. But so yeah, I was at Best Buy for like probably 10 months, and it just got to a point where I people would make comments to me sometimes too. Like I definitely like have looked younger than I am at like especially whenever I was like in my early 20s. Customers would be like, "Oh, what are you going to school for?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've already graduated. I went for marketing." And like they'd make a comment like, "Oh, then why are you here?" Like basically being like, "Why are you why don't you have a better job?"
Hmm.
And I was I didn't want it to bother me. Like I wanted to be like, well, somebody has to work here. Like,
Yeah.
and I would go into like, oh, I'm trying to like build a business and different stuff, but it did start to get to me a little bit. And plus like just the sales side of it and like um with most retail jobs, like they care more about you pushing a credit card onto people
Yeah.
instead of actually selling the products.
Makes sense.
And I I can't do that. Like
Hmm.
even back then I was like I have credit card debt at that point because I was just not making enough money to live, and like I had a really bad car, so it would break and I'd get like a $700 bill and I was like,
Wow.
okay, credit card.
Yep.
But I was like, I can't tell people to open a credit card for like had this story once where they had somebody open a credit card to buy a can of soda.
Wow.
I'm like,
It's
that's
sad.
ridiculous. Like it because whenever somebody opens a credit card with those companies, they get it was like $175 bonus for the store
Yeah.
whenever somebody would open a credit card, like no matter what they bought.
Mhm.
So it was that's why they pushed it so hard. And like at one point, one of the managers there was like, based on how many credit cards you've had opened that day, you can go to lunch first. So like they made it a competition of like
Wow.
who can take their break
That
earlier.
they're supposed to have a right to,
Yeah,
like, as the job.
yeah.
That's crazy.
And it was insane. And
Wow.
I was not happy there. So it started to affect me mentally, and I was starting to get more weddings, and at that point I had met some people that also did video for weddings, and I was working with them like on the side, helping them
Mhm.
at weddings, and I was just like, I want to do this. Like it was just pushing me more towards like I want to do this. So eventually I found a full-time job because I was in a lot of debt at that point. I had, let me think, almost $7,000 on one credit card. That just kind of like kept going and like I just couldn't make a dent in it. And, living by yourself, my rent was going up, like all these different things kind of like piled on top. 'Cause at that point too, I was no longer getting like the EBT food stamps. So
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I need to figure something else out. And I was not going to be able to be on my parents' insurance much longer. So I was like, I just need full-time job for a year at least, and we'll see what happens. So I got a job at a community college where I did marketing, kind of like admin stuff in the marketing department, kind of like secretarial work. I was overqualified for it. Like I didn't have to have a degree for that position, but I was making more money at it than any of my other jobs.
Yeah.
Plus I would get PTO, sick days, like all the other benefits, like 401k, health insurance, like, and there's really good health insurance too. So I took that job and it was good for a long time, but it got to a point where my business then was kind of like catching up and I started to get just mentally overwhelmed with everything. Like I have struggled with like anxiety, depression, burnout for a while, and I was just getting to a point where I was like, I need to pick something. I
Mhm.
can't keep like straddling everything. So I set a goal for myself where I was like, okay, 12 weddings in 1 year is too much if I'm working another job. So I either need to stop at like 10 weddings for the year and that be it. But at that point, I wasn't making enough money, like wasn't charging enough money for that to be profitable at all. So I was like, so I either keep just growing my business and doing that, or, and I did the math. I was like, if I did 15 weddings in a year, I could make it. Like I could make it work. It'd be a little bit tight, but as I like raise my prices more, I'd figure it out. So set the goal of 15, and it would have been 2024, in I think March. I was like, okay, I'm at 12 right now. I need three more weddings. And I just went so hard on like marketing and just trying to like put it out there into everybody. Like, I need three more weddings this year to quit my job.
Mhm.
And I even had a little marketing campaign that I sent out that year to my clients that had booked me. And I was like, hey, if any of you know anybody else getting married and they book me, I'll give you like both weddings a free add-on of like two or three different options. I think I booked at least two weddings just from that. And I had a couple others that were like really trying to get their friends to book with me so that they
Mhm.
could get it. So between that and then just like making the connections with other vendors, I was able to book the three weddings I needed by like end of March, early April that year. Or no, it was earlier than that even because I had like two of the three weddings were like last minute.
Mhm.
Like one of them was in March. They booked me
Wow.
like 2 weeks in advance. And then one of them was like later in April. And then
Yeah.
the third one was like in August. But I was just like, I need it. And I worked for it. And as soon as I booked the third one, I wrote up my resignation letter and was like, alrighty, time to go.
And when was that? That was March 2024?
So I think that's whenever I resigned, but I
Okay.
didn't end until the beginning of May 2024.
Yeah. So our timelines are like perfectly aligned,
Yeah,
basically. Because
yeah.
yeah, it was the same thing. Like, okay, end of March, I think I'm gonna quit my job. Like I should be good. And then May was when I left. So
Mhm.
that's so funny. Aside from like the toxic jobs and the bad experiences, did you always know you wanted to do this? Like you wanted to be self-employed? That was the end goal?
I have always been so fascinated by like small businesses,
Mm-hmm.
self-employed people. And like anytime there was a small business that opened in my town growing up, I'm like, we have to go. Like we have
Oh,
to go right now. We have to go
yeah.
to the grand opening. Like I
Support them.
yeah. So
Yeah.
um I always really liked that. And even in my family, like my grandparents would have like a little food concession stand that they would take to like um different places over the summer, and they would take us with them sometimes and we would help them like we would take the money at the window and give it to my grand like we
Oh,
were small, so it was like we're not doing anything except for like holding the money and giving it to my grand.
yeah.
But it was like I've been around it more like my mom is a hairstylist, so she kind of works um she works for somebody else, but it's like kind of commission based, so kind of
Mhm.
like a small business. But so I've been around it and I have just always been fascinated by it.
Mhm.
Even in college, I was in the Future Entrepreneurs Club. So it has definitely always been on my mind. What I wanted to do has changed throughout the years. At one point, I wanted to own a wedding dress store where you basically get to make your own dress. It's kind of like Build a Bear, but I
Oh,
called it Build a Bride.
that's cool.
So then I was in a business class in college where we made like a business plan. So like I have a whole business plan for
Uh-huh.
this store. But basically you would go in, you would pick like the type of skirt you wanted, the type of top you wanted, what kind of material, and then the different accessories, and you kind of got to just like build it all
Mhm.
together, and then like seamstresses would actually make it for you.
Yeah.
Um and like I presented that to somebody at a local college where I grew up, and they were like, that was very impressive.
Mhm.
You need to like do that or like go into business basically. It has always been on my mind, but what exactly I was gonna do, I wasn't totally sure until I kind of just like stumbled into the wedding video industry. But
Mhm.
um I do really enjoy it.
Yeah. And did you prepare early 2024? Were you prepared for all of that financially? Like, did you still have debt? How much savings did you have? What did that look
So
like?
at that point, so part of the reason I was getting the full-time job was so that I'd have the money to like pay off my debt. I like stopped using that credit card once I could like survive without it basically.
Mhm.
And then I did a balance transfer. I think I was approved for like half of it that I had at that point. So I transferred half of it to get the 0% interest for a while, and then just went really hard on the original credit card. And I paid that off, I think, end of 2023. So I still had a little bit left on like the balance transfer card at that point.
Mhm.
But it was like I could tell I was gonna have it done within a couple of months.
Yeah.
So that was all good. And then I had some like debt in my business from buying new gear, but I'm like, it doesn't count. It's my business.
Mhm.
It does, but it doesn't.
Yeah, no, we talked
Um,
about that. We just buy whatever. It's
yeah,
a business write-off.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then I had to buy a new car because like I mentioned mine was trash. But I was able to get a used car for like $10,000.
Mhm.
I did take out a loan for it, but it like I sold my car, and at that time the used car market was like ridiculously high. And so I pretty much broke even on that car from like what I paid for it. So then I just put that towards the loan and pay the rest off from there. Still have student loans, but
Okay.
I'm not too worried about student loans. Like I'll pay them off, but like they're not it's not a ton either. So it's like
Mhm.
once I get myself really situated and everything, like
Yeah.
I felt like I'll be able to knock those out. I had a 401k from my job, and I forget what the percentage match was, but it was 2 or 3%, I think.
Mhm.
So I was doing that, and whenever I left, I had almost $10,000 in that.
Okay.
Um, and I had to like move that somewhere else whenever I left. And then I forget how much I had saved up. Not enough
Mhm.
personal, but I was to the point where just mentally, I was like, I'd rather figure it out and like eat ramen every day
Mhm.
if I have to for a little while versus like continuing to just burn myself out. I'm still working on like building up my savings. I've opened a high yield savings account. I once if I get like tips from weddings now, I'll put that in there.
Mhm.
And I just forget about it. I'm like, don't touch it. Just
Yeah, that's
forget
good.
it's even existing.
That's good.
Um, and yeah, so far nothing
So
has
good.
happened too crazy, but
Yeah.
um
And you live alone?
I live with my boyfriend now,
Okay.
so
Okay.
the end of last year we moved in together.
Okay. But when you left the job, you were alone. Is
Hmm.
that right? Okay. Yes, that's pretty scary to go
Yeah.
through. So we're the
But
first, sorry, were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say I live in a pretty low cost of living area. Like I'm in
Yeah.
the suburb, like probably an hour really from the city.
Hmm.
So like my rent at that place is a 1 bedroom, and it was like 650,
Wow.
and I had a dog.
Wow.
Yeah, so I
That's
was
crazy.
very very fortunate to
Yeah.
have low rent, but and even now like my boyfriend and I split rent, and with my like pet fee added,
Hmm.
now I am still paying 650 a month
Hmm.
for it. So
Wow, that's pretty good.
yeah, it's definitely has its benefits, but then I have to travel more for my work, so it's
Yeah,
a give and take, but
I see. I know I'm pretty sure you've watched like my story or like how I kind of transitioned the first 6 months, and I think you related to some of what I talked about.
mhm.
What was that like for you, like the first few months of being self-employed? How did you feel?
I was kind of riding high for a little while. Like
Hmm.
my wedding season had started. I had a bunch of weddings that I was like really looking forward to. It was spring, it was almost summer, and I was like so excited that like I quit my job and I went full time. And then maybe August, it hit me that like I have so much to do. Like I was expecting to have like more free time and I was gonna have so much motivation to get all this work done. And I had taken on extra work, like smaller weddings that I normally wouldn't do just because I was like, yeah, I have the time and I could use the money. Like I can do it. And yeah, around like August, I really was like, oh no, I am
Mhm.
burning myself out. And at that point, I had a wedding every weekend from August 10th through November. Um,
Wow.
like the second week, no, third week of November last year. So
Hmm.
it was like a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and like not all of them were like mine that I had to then edit. So like some of them I was just helping other people, but still like you're
Hmm.
out and working for like 7, 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
A lot of like on your feet the whole time and carrying a whole bunch of stuff, and it just physically gets exhausting. But then
Yeah.
like mentally, I was noticing like it's taking me like 2 or 3 days to recover from a wedding now, and that wasn't
Hmm.
happening before. Financially, at that point, I wasn't doing terrible. Like, I was getting all of the payments from the weddings that were happening like in the fall. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I need to be careful because over winter, I have like no projected income right now. Just a bunch of different things just kind of started to like sink in at that point of like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah.
I got through it. The winter was definitely the hardest just because of like the variable in, well, if I'm not shooting a wedding, so nobody's paying me for their weddings. So really the only way I'm getting money is if I'm doing like non-wedding work or
Yeah.
if I'm like getting the bookings and like the deposit from like future weddings. So it's very, the one thing I love about the wedding industry is that you get to like see a year in advance, like how much money you're gonna bring in.
That's true. Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's like you really have to navigate like, okay, I have all of this money coming in within like 3 months, but then I have to make that stretch and last for like 6 months.
Hmm.
And it is a lot of like mental load, kind of.
Hmm.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah, no, you did. And
Okay.
I that leads me to another question. How are you, you're still fairly new in becoming fully self-employed. So are you trying to structure things differently to prepare for those lower months? And then what are the things that you're doing aside from weddings to cushion things if you are doing anything?
So I have kind of restructured how I have my clients make payments to me. So
Mhm.
I try to keep the deposit amount low. A lot of vendors want like 50% of their price as the deposit. And it's like if they're booking the venue, a DJ, a photographer, catering, florist, like that's a lot of money that they have to put down all at once. So I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna make mine lower, but then I'll have like more smaller payments throughout the time leading up to their wedding. So
Mhm.
and typically I ask because I try to be flexible with it because some people are like, I want to pay it all at once. Some people are like, give me as many payment plans as I can. Depending on how far out they book with me, I'll do like 20% to book. And then in 6 months or so, I'll do another payment. The main one I do is three. So it'll be like at booking, 6 months from booking, and then 30 days before the wedding. And that one in the middle kind of usually ends up happening over the winter.
Okay.
Um, so that's something that I changed like in the fall last year. So I'm starting to see that now where like
Smart.
it would be February this year and I'm like I am gonna like I have money to pay myself this month, but like that's gonna be it. And then I
Mhm.
would just get another payment. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like
Yeah,
I like forgot that it was even coming, but it definitely really saved me.
that's
Um,
good.
and because it's like for me, if I see money, I'm like, oh, cool, I can spend it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So it's like not taking it immediately has
Hmm.
definitely helped me, because people tend to book so far in advance. If somebody books me less than 6 months in advance, then I change it a little bit, but for the most part, that works out pretty well. Outside of weddings, I have done a little bit of like branding video. So it's kind of like a photo shoot, but with video. So small businesses will be having they'll kind of set up, a lot of it ends up being other wedding vendors. So they'll have me go along with them if they're like setting up the flowers or like decorations for a wedding. So it's
That's
like
smart.
I'm going there before the wedding's happening, and then I'm leaving once that vendor leaves,
Hmm.
and just getting more like behind the scenes kind of video.
Hmm.
But it, looks better than just like bringing your significant other to record you on your phone.
Yeah.
It's somebody that knows what they're doing and can edit it in a way that people who don't know how to edit just don't even know where to start. So I've done that a couple of times. I haven't really dove into it too much just because I don't have the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Which
weddings
is
just,
good.
yeah, especially in the fall because here in Pittsburgh area, the fall is the biggest time. So like September through October into November. It's not terribly hot most of the time. Plus, like the leaves are changing colors, and usually like it's not super rainy or anything. So it's like the perfect time everybody wants to get married then. The fall is super busy, but then
Hmm.
so I'm not able to edit all of those weddings like immediately.
Yeah.
So I get it's called a backlog. And basically then over the winter, once weddings slow down, I'm editing those videos from earlier in the fall.
Hmm.
So it's like even if I'm not shooting a wedding, I still have editing and everything to do. So my goal long term is to kind of have like maybe 8 to 10 weddings in the year and then fill in the other times with non-wedding stuff. I also want to get into like making a short film or like more creative projects.
Yeah,
So
that'd be cool.
um but I just need money for that. So
Right. Right. Yeah, to
but
support yourself while you slow
yeah,
down on the weddings.
yeah.
And this is kind of hopping backwards because you did talk about it a bit by starting with like a free wedding for your cousin. How else did you get clients in the early days? And can you kind of talk about your pricing then and like what that sacrifice meant for you? Like I don't know if you ever calculated your hourly wage basically for everything you've done, but I'd be curious to hear.
Let me see what I still have in like my Google Doc.
Okay.
Um, because I have a whole bunch of my stuff because I'm like someday I'm gonna want to look back on this.
Yeah.
I know like my first paid wedding, I charged 250 and I forget what all I even made for them, but it was like a highlight video, like 5 to 6 minutes,
Mhm.
probably a ceremony film, so like from multiple cameras during the ceremony. And I can't remember if I did anything for the reception or not, but basically it was like every time I booked a wedding there for a while, I
Mhm.
would raise my price a little bit, like
Mhm.
maybe $200. And then I kind of got into a spot between probably 2000 and 2500, and I just stayed there for a long time, and that's kind of like point in the market, and this depends on the location as well. That's kind of like a lot of money for lower budgets but not enough money for people with higher budgets. So then it's like you either aren't getting hired or the people who are hiring you are like, we spent a lot of money on this, like, and are very demanding and want like almost more than what they purchased.
Mhm.
And it can be a lot. So got a little stuck there for a little while, but have since gotten out of it and all of my clients are wonderful.
Yeah. And I know we'll probably talk about this a lot on like the wedding episode, but can you break down your time? If you charge 2,500, that's you're filming maybe 6, 8 hours of a day and then spending, I think you told me 40 hours or so. Is that accurate to edit?
Yeah. Well, for me personally, I'm probably filming a wedding more like 10 to 12 hours.
Wow.
So that's like the day of, plus I'm paying somebody to be there to help me at least 8 hours.
Is that included in your rate already?
Yes.
Wow.
Um, and then because I've tried to do it by myself and I am just like a puddle at the end of the day. Like
Right.
I'm like I can't move, I can't think, I can't do anything.
Yeah,
I need somebody to help me.
that's crazy.
Well, even before the wedding, I usually spend 30 to 45 minutes on like a consultation call before they book with me. I'll
Hmm.
spend maybe 30 minutes making a proposal for them and answering any extra questions that they might have. And then I also do like little check-in emails and I'm like, hey, if you need help with anything, I'm here. Like, ask me any questions you might have. So throughout the whole planning process, and then another 45-minute to an hour long meeting towards the end of like the wedding planning, where we go over like all the details, what they want on video from the day, anything they don't want, anything and everything that's gonna happen, basically.
Wow.
So that's a couple of hours before the wedding, and
Yeah.
then the 10 to 12 hours at the wedding, at least 35 to 40 hours on editing,
Hmm.
sometimes more depending on like if say the coloring got messed up on one of my cameras and I have to spend extra time fixing that. Like
Hmm.
little things sometimes can take a long time to fix.
Yeah.
That's why whenever somebody's like, fix it in post, it's like, well, I can't.
Right.
Like it has to be really good in camera because you can't really Photoshop videos. So
Yeah.
it, and if you are able to fix it, it is a lot of time.
Yeah. So
Um,
like 35, let's say another 15, 50
mhm,
hours. So 20, I have my calculator,
mhm,
2,500 divided by 50 comes to about $50 an hour or so, which isn't
mhm,
horrible, but it's
mhm,
like that's where I think a lot of people don't realize when it comes to a service business like that, how you're trading a lot of time for what you're
mhm.
charging. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Plus, my overhead costs are pretty crazy.
Right, right.
Like I have my taxes from last year. Like my mileage alone last year, driving to all the weddings, I had 5,000 miles
Wow.
that I drove to and from weddings. My overhead, I have like Google Workspace. So like I get my email through there so that it's custom to my domain name. And then I also have like cloud storage on there.
Yeah.
I have a cloud storage with my editing software that I pay like $5 a month for just as like a backup safety net kind of thing. The music that I've licensed for every wedding I have to pay for because of like copyright claims and that kind of thing. And the one that I use is like it's good, but it's expensive because it's
Hmm.
good. So that's like $1,000 for the year. Pay for an accountant, my website, domain, cloud storage, and then like I have a CRM that I use for like sending
Hmm.
my contracts and questionnaires and that kind of stuff. That's like $400 for the year. Business insurance is very expensive on camera equipment because camera equipment itself is very expensive. Then it's like per wedding, I have to have separate insurance for my drone because my regular insurance doesn't want to cover the drone.
Wow.
If I have a second shooter, usually it's a lot of times I end up paying $75 an hour for like 6 to 8 hours for a second shooter. And then to actually like deliver the videos, I have a online, it's like a gallery, kind of like a photo gallery that you would
Mhm.
get. But it's for the videos, and that has like a yearly fee plus a fee for like so many gigabytes of storage that you have to add to it. So it's like it adds up really quickly.
Yeah, I could imagine. Are there any throughout your journey, are there any investments you made that were pretty big that were not worth it? Like you made a mistake
Hmm.
investing in that?
Not so much the actual like investment of the equipment, but one thing I did that I made a really big oopsie on, I kind of in a panic purchased a new lens last year and I didn't have the cash flow for it. So I had one of those like retail credit cards and I was able to get 12 months no interest financing on it.
Mhm.
And I don't know how I did it, but I messed up the calculation somehow, went over those 12 months.
Um,
It was probably a $2,500 purchase. I got charged $800 in interest.
yeah,
So learned that the hard way.
yeah, yeah.
So stuff like that's
Okay.
definitely where I've messed up before with
Yeah.
finances. But for the most part, I do really like research like all of the gear. I try not to like impulse buy stuff that's new, that's coming out. I
Mhm.
really have to talk myself out of like upgrading my cameras whenever a new one comes out. And it's like for video, you have to have multiple. Because like for the ceremony and the reception events, I have a couple on tripods and then for because like if you need the entire ceremony, you need it from different angles, or if somebody walks in front of one of the angles, like you need to have backups. I've even had cameras like completely stop working in the middle of a wedding day. So it's like you have to have extras of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Technology will do that. It's and
yes.
when you can't control it or figure it out, it's so
And I'm
frustrating.
just like standing there, like internally, just like sobbing, like, oh no, what do I
Yeah.
do?
Wow.
But you know, it definitely um is an expensive hobby.
Hmm. Expensive hobby and expensive business.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think you answered this yet. Now, at this point, are most of your clients from word of mouth or like your marketing? Do they tell you how they found you?
A lot of it is either referrals from past clients or other vendors.
Hmm.
So the vendor community is actually very, very nice. Like everybody loves working together. If you, especially with videographers, there's like a stereotype of like a, a video dude. It's like the finance bros,
Yeah.
but it's like oh it's a guy in like a black button-up shirt with a hat on backwards and he's like walking around acting like he owns the place, like
Hmm.
acting like it's a video shoot or like a movie set. Me being like I am more quiet and more like just my the way I film everything, I'm more in the background.
Yeah.
And I'll work with photographers that are like, I love working with you.
Oh, that's good.
So I get a lot of recommendations from that as well.
Nice.
Right now, I have so in my CRM, my customer relationship management software, my projects, it looks like 32% are from vendors, 8% are from past clients, couple from Google, 12% from Instagram.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good.
Mhm. So there's a good mix. In the past, it's been like 50%
Hmm.
referrals.
I
So
see.
it it fluctuates depending on the year and the time of the year and everything. But I would say like social media is probably the bigger one, like
Hmm.
after the referrals.
I see. And with the vendors, is that like, oh, this we work with Mara frequently at this venue, or she works here often, so
Mhm.
they find you through that venue or something like
Yeah,
that?
so it'll
Okay.
be like I'm on venues like preferred
Yeah,
lists.
that's good.
And like I've last year I ended up at the same venue 4 weddings in a row.
Hmm. That's good though, because you're like
Yeah,
familiar with it and
yeah,
I would imagine it's easier.
yeah. It's like
Okay.
I know the people, I know everything. I'm like I just show up and they're like, hey, I'm like,
That's awesome.
hey. But then there's other like photographers will recommend me because they want to. like I work with the photographer the closest on the wedding day, so
Yeah.
they want to recommend somebody that they get along with and enjoy working with.
Hmm.
Had some DJs recommend me, hair and makeup people sometimes, like it, florists, like pretty much
So
anybody.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like whoever the couple like asks about it basically. Like
Hmm.
if they have a style that resonates with me, either as a person, like personality wise, or the way that I edit, or the way that they want their video to look, I come to mind, to a lot of people's minds, pretty frequently.
Yeah. That's good.
A lot of
Glad to hear that.
pretty much all of my friends are in the industry, so it's like
Hmm.
we all recommend each other all the time
Nice.
anyway. Like
Okay.
we're all obviously like we're gonna recommend the people who match the couple the best. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's nice to get to work with friends.
Yeah, I bet. That's awesome. Can you talk through the accounting side of it a bit? I know when we spoke, you talked about profit first. So can you talk through
Mhm.
that? And then how do you prepare for taxes? Do you set money aside? That type of thing.
Whenever I was like first getting started in my business, I was like, okay, what do I need to do? Googling everything and, filed all the paperwork and everything. And I was like, I want to be an LLC
Mhm.
because I don't want like the liability of like a sole proprietor kind of situation. Not that I really own much right now that could be taken away if I got sued, but like just the idea of it, I was like long term, I would rather be LLC,
Yeah.
just for the legal and financial benefits of it. So I was like, one of the requirements for that is you should have a separate business bank account. So I opened one just at like a local bank whenever I was doing that, and it was fine, but like I had no way to like save money with that. So it was like anytime I just thought of something I needed to buy, or like was like, oh, I have this wedding, but I told them I would be able to do like some kind of audio recorder, I have to go buy that now.
Mhm.
And I just wouldn't save money. I wasn't planning ahead enough to be like, oh, in a couple of months, I'm also gonna have to buy something else. And then whenever that time came, I was just kind of like, oh no, what do I do? So whenever I was like getting ready to go full time, I was like, I have to figure out the money side of things because I can't get stuck with no cash flow.
Mhm.
So I started reading the Profit First book, and I didn't end up finishing it just because I can't finish books very easily whenever they're
Uh,
kind of like uh more educational based.
yeah.
But I like Googled it then and found people that kind of like summarized it basically. But
Mhm.
I got the gist of it, and I was like, okay, so I need a bank that will allow me to have like a couple separate accounts because the profit first method is kind of like you have a bunch of different accounts that are specific to certain expenses. So you would have one that is for taxes, you would have one that's for like salaries, one that's for overhead expenses. You could have one that's just for rent if that's something that you have to like really pay attention to.
Mhm.
You could break it up as much or as little as you want, really. Basically, it's like if you have something that you have to pay for it, then it's kind of like the sinking funds kind of
Yeah.
that you've
Hmm.
talked about. Um, and then there is a profit account as well. That's like the
Hmm.
one requirement that you would have for this method. And basically then you figure out there's like a calculation thing that you have to do to kind of figure out what your like percentages are for each category. You basically set it up to where it automatically, like anytime you make money in the business, it gets dispersed with those percentages into the all the different accounts. So for me, I have I use Relay Bank, and they, like, I just Googled and found them. And they allow you to have, I think, up to 20 different accounts. And it's all like, it's a business bank. So it's specifically for like small businesses. So I opened up an account, and it is FDIC insured as well. So that was kind of like a, oh yeah, I'll try it. Like,
Yeah.
if it wasn't, I was like, I don't know about this. Like,
Right, right.
um, but so everything looked good with it. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. And then I ended up, like, a couple of months later, they ended up becoming like a partner with the Profit First, like, book and author and everything. I was like, okay, cool. So what I did was I opened up, I think, maybe 8 accounts. One account I have is strictly for deposits. So any money that I get paid will go into that account. And then I have it set to do it once a week, to automatically disperse that money that's in that account to all the other ones. And I have, like, my salary that I pay myself in one account, an overhead expenses account that, like, all of my subscriptions for the year, anything that I would need to buy, like SD cards or smaller stuff like that, I have in that account. I have an account specifically for my, like, assistants for wedding days. So I actually looked at it from my last year, and figured out that I spent around 18% of my income on my second shooter's assistants. So
Mhm.
now I can just automatically say, okay, 18% of everything goes into that account.
Smart.
And if I end up with more at the end of the year, I get a little bonus. But then I set aside, I have to pay sales tax on my services. So I set aside 6% of everything, but that does, like, get charged. So it's basically just like moving it from what they pay into the, like, account that then goes to the state. And then I also put aside for, like, my taxes, my income tax. I'm still in a tax bracket that's like 20 to 25% probably. So I'm not putting like a full 30%. That is what is recommended, but it varies depending on your tax bracket, obviously. Right now I have, like, all of that separated. So now whenever I go into my bank, I can see, like, okay, this is how much money I have in total. But then I can look and say, oh, but I only have this much that I can, like, spend on, like, equipment, or if I needed to, like, outsource something, like, oh, I don't have the money right now. I
Yeah.
need to save that money for something else.
Mhm.
And, there are times where, like, I have to do a little transfer back and forth of, like, oh, I don't have money for a second shooter that I need right now. Like, the timing just wasn't right. So I just have to move money from one account into the other account. But
Mhm.
then I have, like, that account linked up with the way that I pay my second shooter. So, like, it all is kind of like set up to be kind of as automated as it can get,
Yeah.
um, because I do have ADHD, and
Mhm.
I will just forget, or, like, out of sight, out of mind, or I'll forget that I'm supposed to be saving for something down the
Yeah.
road, and I'm like, oh, well, I have the money now, I can just spend it. So that's definitely helped me a lot, and just being strict with myself about it. So, like,
Mhm.
last year, my first full year, or not even a full year, my first mostly full year in business. The previous few years, I didn't really pay much in income tax because I just wasn't making very much.
Mhm.
But since I was paying myself a salary last year, I had to pay more in taxes. And I was doing, like, the quarterly estimates, but not enough. So I ended up owing $4,000 in taxes, like local and state and the IRS. And I, like, my tax guy called me, and he's like, you do owe a little bit this year. And like I could tell he was kind of nervous and he was like told me the amount and I was like, okay. I
Oh,
was
good.
like I was like, okay, that's fine. Like I had it. So I was like there was times where I really wanted to like dip into my tax savings account and be like,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna need it. I can borrow like $1,000 from it to buy this new thing that I want. And then I just had to be strict with myself. Like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
I need to save it until after the tax season and
Yeah.
see what happens. I'm so glad that I did because
Right.
I had almost $7,000 saved in that.
Hmm.
That I was then able to just pay like the IRS and everything off and paid my tax guy with that money. So it was like everything was good. I had a tiny bit left over
Yeah.
that I just put into like one of my other accounts and
Mhm.
started over this year. And I'm
Yeah.
paying more in estimated taxes, so hopefully I get a refund, but
Yeah. At least you're prepared. I think that's like when you go into business or
Mhm.
self-employed, even if it's just a part-time thing, taxes is what gets
Mhm.
people caught up the most
It's
because you don't
there's
realize that it's a lot.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of influencers that I followed that I saw like this spring posting like I severely underestimated taxes, like I made more money than I thought, and like
Mhm.
all this stuff, and they'd be like, I owe like $10,000 in taxes and I don't
Yeah.
have it. I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
that's terrifying.
It is terrifying. No, that's good. You have a system. That's a awesome bank. That's cool.
Mhm.
So, what would you say is your best advice for somebody like a creative who wants to do wedding videography or anything related?
First and foremost, work with what you have. If all you have is a phone and you want to do like photography, videography, learn how to do that really, really well. And, you might feel kind of like silly being like, oh yeah, I'm going to do a photo shoot with my phone. But like, if that's all you have, just get really good at that. Then you can start charging like $10 to do like a family photo shoot or something. Like start really, really low and then just build your way up. I hated that advice whenever I was starting because it's like, no, I just want to do it all now. I want to go full time into this. But like the slower you grow, the easier time you have. I know a couple of people in the wedding industry that kind of started around the same time as me, but they had almost like a bigger explosion to where they went full time a lot earlier. But they were taking on like 20, 25, sometimes 30 weddings in a
Mm-hmm.
year and they were just getting so burnt out from it.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have like a lot of systems in place. They didn't know like how to do a lot of the admin stuff, and it comes back to bite you whenever like you're doing a service for somebody else and they're paying you. They expect you to know what you're doing, and just the slower you can go about it, the easier it is to learn as you go. Definitely save money for taxes. Even if you don't think you're gonna owe it, save it
Yeah.
anyway. Because
Yeah.
then at tax time, if you don't owe anything, you get a little bit of a bonus. You can put that towards savings or invest it or
Mhm.
invest it back into your business. Yeah, and I say like the last thing I would really tell somebody starting is like just try it. Like if you have that creative itch in the back of your head, like try it out, look it up online. There's tons of like behind the scenes videos of people doing exactly what you want to do.
Mhm.
Um, just go talk to people who do it, even if it's online. There's tons of Facebook groups you can join,
Yeah.
and just try it out because you might realize that, oh yeah, I really love this. I want to put in the time and the work and the money to like to grow and be able to do this. Or you might realize I actually don't like it that much. I'm gonna go back to the drawing board and try something else.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it can be a very expensive industry. to get into, but start small and go as you get more clients, just keep putting the money back in.
Love that. I really agree about that first one. Like go slow, grow slowly, because it's so much more sustainable. That's like for
Yeah.
any creative thing, because if you
Mhm.
just blow up, you're gonna either
Yeah.
burn out or you're gonna flop, you know?
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I have one more question that's kind of
hmm
fun.
hmm
What would you say is your favorite wedding you've done? Like what stood out about it?
I had one, like the first one that comes to my mind is when I did last year. They're one of the ones that booked me kind of like more last minute.
Mm,
And so like they were part of the reason that I was able to quit my job. So like that already kind of has like a bonus point with it. Um, but it was a very like it was just different from a standard wedding.
mhm.
It was actually a Quaker ceremony. So do you know like Quaker religion?
I've
Um,
heard of it, yeah.
so it's kind of like Christianity a little bit, but it's different as well. But the biggest thing is that they do a self-uniting ceremony. So they like don't have to have an officiant
Mm,
sign the papers and stuff. And then they also do a circle around the couple as like the setup for the seating.
hmm,
Um, and I forget what the reasoning was for it, but it was the way that they did it, it was so beautiful. And like you got to see the guests' faces in the background of the video that I captured, which never happens. Like like
yeah.
if anything, you get like the back of people's heads. So that
Mm,
setup was really cool. And then just the little touches that they had throughout the day, the little sentimental pieces. And they also had more of like a vintage kind of vibe. So I really got to play with the editing and it was just a lot of fun to
yeah.
work with and like they were a fun couple. I told them before the wedding, I was like, yeah, I might be a little bit longer with my edit this year because I'm going full time, trying to figure it out. Just kind of like forewarning people so that they don't get upset. And they said, they were like, that's okay. We plan to be married for a while.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Yeah, so and video is like super important to them,
Yeah.
based on like their families in the past had videos and like so it was nice that like they picked me out of everybody that they could have and
Mhm.
I feel like I really got to know them in such a short amount of time that
Yeah.
and then like everybody that I've showed the video to is like, oh my gosh, I feel like I know them just based on this. Like
Yeah.
their personalities really shined through.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you for doing this. And
Yes.
we'll have our next episode soon talking all about the wedding side of it. Can
Yes.
you tell people where to find you? And you're in Pittsburgh, like that's
Yes.
mostly where you shoot. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell people where to find you if they're interested in having you as a videographer?
Yes. So I am based in Pittsburgh, but I do travel. And if it's to someplace cool, I can make you a deal. But you can find me on social media. My business is M20 Media, M20 Media. That's on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, but mostly Instagram. And then my website is m20media.biz, B-I-Z. And you can find my like email and everything on there as well.
Perfect. I'll have it in the description box and in like
Awesome.
the show notes for the podcast. Well, thank you for doing this, and we'll talk during the wedding episode.